Hi everyone, my name is Chris and welcome to Make the First Cut. Today is all about bending wood, or breaking it. We'll find out, I guess. But I have a few things I need to explain first, so let's get started. Now, before we get started, there's a few things that we need to know. Some very important things, actually. We already know the height of this fence is 3 3/4 inches, so I know when I go to cut the strips of wood, I need to cut them at least 3 3/4 inches wide. I will, however, be cutting them to 4 inches wide, and I'll explain later. The other thing we need to know is what the radius is from this point back here to this point back here. What's the distance? That will tell me the length of the piece and how long I need to cut it. So that will give me my length, plus I already know my 4 inches is going to be the width. Now, in order to measure that, there's several ways you could do it. I mean, I guess I could rough it and try to bend a tape measure around this radius, but that's not exactly the most accurate way of doing things. I also should explain that these are in place now because they represent the thickness of the apron I want it to become. I'm looking for it to become at least 3/4 of an inch thick, and so they sort of represent what the apron will encompass around this frame. All I did basically was take some painter's tape and taped a piece of string to that end, made a mark with my Sharpie at that very far point here, stretched the string around it over here, and made a mark at this point here. Took the tape off, laid it across the bench, got my tape measure, and measured from point to point, and that gave me the minimum distance I needed to cut, or in other words, the minimum length on the piece of wood. Now, prior to doing any sort of glue up, even after we have the wood cut, there's a couple things we need to do to this basic setup that I have here. The first of which was I had to screw the clamping fence down to this piece of plywood. That's been done. Also, what I did is I laid packing tape on the bottom and on the face of the fence. That's to prevent the glue that will evidently, most likely, squeeze out of these boards when I clamp them together from sticking to either this board or this fence. That will give me the opportunity to actually remove the fence instead of gluing it in place. And speaking of glue, rather than using the regular Titebond or Titebond 2, I'm going to go ahead and use the Titebond 3 because it has a longer open time to it. A longer open time will give me more time to glue the boards up, get them in place, get them situated the way I want, and then do the actual clamping process without any worries of the glue setting before I'm ready for it to. Now, these cawls, or basically what I told you were just around here to represent the thickness of the apron, are also, I made them because I will be using them in the clamping process. Once the boards I have all glued up and I start gluing them on and putting them onto the face here, if I was to take the clamp that I have and the ones that I'll be using and just try to clamp them down like this, you'll notice that there's a space at the bottom that's getting virtually no clamping pressure whatsoever. So by adding these cawls to the piece, I can therefore get the wood on, put the cawl in place, get the clamp down, tighten it up, and I'll have even clamping pressure from the top all the way to the bottom. The final important thing to remember on any kind of bent wood lamination is how you actually cut the wood strips that you'll be using. The grain direction on the wood you'll be using to clamp around the bend is very important. Take, for instance, this line here. Let's pretend this is one of the slats that I will be cutting, that I'll be putting glue on and then turning face up. You'll notice that the wood grain in this direction is running vertically. If I try to turn that board up, clamp it down with the wood grain running vertically to this fence, it will undoubtedly crack and not allow me to bend the wood because the wood fibers are the weak point here. It will crack along one of those fibers, so that's not how we want to do it. We want our wood grain to be as straight horizontally as possible going around this fence, and that will give us a better chance actually of it not cracking and actually make the wood stronger as it goes around to be able to withstand that curve. Now, we may still get some cracks. I'm not going to say we're not going to. They may all crack. I don't know. We're going to find out together. But I know that this will give me the best fighting chance. So what we need to do is get our wood, lay out the wood and how we want to cut it, get the pieces cut, get them glued up, and give this a try. Let's do it. What is it they say about you can never have too many clamps? 22 clamps, I believe, is what it took to bend that little piece of wood. I'm afraid I'm going to have to call it a day there, and I apologize. I really wanted to finish this part of the apron build for you today, but the hard part is done, and the best part is I now know that I can do it without breaking this wood. And I was a little concerned about that because that's a pretty tight corner that we're taking there. But the inside piece I got without cracking, so the outside pieces and the next layers should be that much easier. The reason why I can't finish it today is because I have to go out and I want to buy some more of these Irwin clamps. These are ideal for this type of process. These F-style clamps, while they currently, as you see, are working, they take a long time to get in there and cinch down, and I'm afraid that my glue is going to set up before I get them all on there. So I want to go out and get some more of these, and then I'll finish doing the glue up process on this apron, and then next week I'll show you how it came out, how it looks. But the rest was pretty elementary anyway. You add the glue, put the wood on there, clamp it down. So there you go. Bentwood lamination. We're going to be done with that. We'll move on to the next project. So I'll see you then.